A-T. It's in the name.
Welcome into Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about transitions as school gets started and a certain somebody starting a new job, all that good stuff. We'll get to that right after this important message. This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Event, featuring Nate Oates, Saturday, August 23rd at the Renaissance Shoals Conference Center. This show kicks off at 7 p.m., doors open at 6:15, and table sponsors enjoy an exclusive dinner starting at 5 p.m. Reserve your table of 10, explore a variety of sponsorship opportunities, or grab your general admission tickets today. Contact Tammy Dial at tdial, D-I-A-L, at hcu.edu or visit www.hcu.edu for more info. I'm Travis Creasy, the pulpit minister at Westgate Church of Christ in Dothan, Alabama. First time I get to say that officially. That's All-Pro counselor Ben Hayes with Highland Park 3-Chord Counseling and Mars Hill Bible School, man. How's it going?
Man, it is going good. Kind of a little bit of a new role going on at Mars Hill as well, starting this school year. So we've got a couple of days before that gets rolling and looking forward to it. But I'm kind of glad to have a little bit more normalcy and be getting back to school. So in some ways, but how about you, Will Myhan with Highland Park Youth Ministry and also Mars Hill Bible School, Bible class teacher. How you doing?
Praise God, summer's over. Right. Am I right? Do all the teachers feel that way? No. But do the youth ministers feel that way? Yes, they do. So, no, it's been a great summer. Things have gone really well. I think Lindsay is probably ready for a little more normalcy since we decided to have a child in the busiest time of the year. So,
busiest time of the year for you.
That's true. Yeah, her school actually started today, and she's like, I feel real weird, sitting at the house. So things have been really good. I think we are, like you, excited for a little bit more of a normal routine. So,
You know what caps off summer for the Ben and Travis universe, and that is the Staying Alive Disco Dodgeball Tournament. Youth ministers, if you're like Will, you're ready to send them back to school. Why not send them back to school with, a couple of dodgeballs, the soft kind, right? We're not looking to injure or maim just yet. That makes it perfect. You can take out all your stress on a bunch of young people. August the 16th, Mars Hill Bible School. I think it is the 4th annual Tony Pop Rogers Memorial Staying Alive Disco Dodgeball Tournament. Of course, all the fun is to raise money for St. Jude, and that's exactly where it's going to go. Right now, you can register your team for $15 a person. At some point this week, it's going to bump up to $20 a person. So go ahead and get them registered. Unless, of course, you want to give more money to St. Jude, and we're not going to be upset about that whatsoever. Our aunts are pooling together. They're going to have concessions. There's going to be all kinds of fun, good stuff. We've had a blast the last few years. Will, is it 2 years in a row? Highland Park defending two-time.
The only reason I know that is because our intern this summer was redoing some stuff in the youth room and knocked 2 golden wrenches off of the bookshelf and looked at me and said, "What in the world are these things?" And then I had to brag a little bit. Yeah.
And you were just a couple of games away from being a 3-time.
That's right.
Undefeated.
Yeah.
When was that? Was that last year that y'all didn't get it, or?
No, we've won it the past 2 years. When I had the
first year,
the squad of defenders of equal rights, Riverside. I hit half court shot. Riverside beat us one time, so that was. So they've got one.
They had a wrench back at Riverside then.
Now Highland Park has 3 golden wrenches. Because
the adults got one.
Well, we may have 4. Yeah. The adults going to be 2 times. So, we've got quite a few over there.
Yeah. So, somebody, let's see. Highland Park, they're inviting all challengers. They are the fighting champions of dodgeball. They're not scared. So come try to dethrone them at Mars Hill Bible School, August 16th, 10 a.m. I mean, come on, guys, 10 a.m. on a Saturday. That's still pretty late. Okay.
Sleep in. You'll be done pretty early. It's over by what, 1 o'clock most of the time.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think
like
2
a really
p.m.
long.
maybe the latest we've ever went.
Yep.
And that was the first year. So,
And you get to win a wrench. I mean, who doesn't want to win a golden spray painted wrench that has a little artwork by me on the side of it? So
as a transition to talk about transitions, it is August. The calendar's turned. We're going to school. We're starting new jobs. We're doing different things. And so we want to talk a little bit about that and how that's going. Of course, you can go check it out on my personal page on Facebook. I think I shared it to Ben and Travis, and you can see our entire move in a 14-second video. And let me tell you, it did not feel like 14 seconds in most ways. But there you go.
very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, we talk about, I've sat with groups before and taught groups, and we talk about transition times, and they're kind of difficult, Travis. And you just said that, like, you might have a short video that tells about it, but that doesn't do justice to kind of the craziness of the transition, because you did make that move in like 2 days, but you really didn't make it in 2 days either. I mean, it was a process of going through all that you went through of making that decision, talking to all the right people in making that decision, and then packing up stuff, and then driving down there, and then unpacking stuff, and then all the new things. You got to preach your first lesson Sunday officially as their minister at Westgate. And so speak to just how difficult that whole process could be. I mean, whatever parts of it you want to.
Well, it's kind of neat because I think some of the detail stuff, which my wife is much more detail oriented than me, and I can't even imagine doing this without her. So major props to Whitney. So much of the whirlwind of the last week kind of cut down on the emotional part about it, because it was just, you were so on to the next thing. We had teacher retreat on Thursday. And so the school said bye. I preached my last sermon last Sunday before, and everybody said bye. And then I did VBS, got pied in the face the last day of VBS. My last official act as the preacher at Riverside Church of Christ, getting pied in the face. But it's a whirlwind, and there's things that you're going to process. I'm finding things that I didn't even know I had with the boxes and unpacking. I've forgotten I've had it. And so, man, there's just an emotional part of it that has proven to be bittersweet, because it's reminders of how blessed you've been and how good people are being to me down here at Dothan, and trying not to ruin that good grace and good mercy within the first week or so. So,
well, one of the things that you think about with it is expecting some discomfort. Acknowledging what that process is going to be like, and just acknowledge that any kind of change is going to be hurtful. I mean, it's going to be painful. I can remember making transitions from different churches, and I love all the places I've worked. And I think you guys could probably say the same thing. Will, you've made a couple of job changes at different times, and I'm thankful for heaven, because I'm going to get to hang out with those people again at some point. But it's just really tough to make some of those. And so I think sometimes we think, oh man, this is going to be easy. Kids going from elementary to middle school, or middle school to high school, or high school to college, or whatever it is that they're about to do. I think sometimes there's this thought it's going to be easy transition. Everything's got its price tag, right? So, expecting the discomfort and acknowledging it, and embracing the growth that comes with it, I think is important.
I think it's really interesting, and maybe the world, or just a lot of people, I've heard my whole life, change is not good. And I think some of that is just because people don't want the discomfort that comes with change. But I think a lot of times in my life, Lindsay will tell you, coming out of Freed Hardeman, I was the guy that wanted to work here 5 years, here 5 years, here 5 years. and just keep moving. And maybe that's because I can't sit still and I always just want to move on to the next thing. But I think there's a lot of fun in change. Yes, there's growth, but just experiencing things that I've seen other people experience. Even with Jet being born this summer, there's been times where I've just looked at Lindsay and said, hey, this stinks. But then I go, there's so much good that outweighs whatever it is in the moment that I'm frustrated with.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of perspectives that change brings about, or that those transitions bring about. Because I recently, this past year, I taught 8th grade, and a lot of them were going, well, we don't want to go to high school. And then it's like they get to high school and go, oh, but there's so much more here for me. And I think sometimes we've just heard our whole life, and this is not good, or this is not going to be easy. And then when we get there, go, well, that wasn't as bad as what I thought it was. Just in these everyday life, changes. And so I enjoy change in that what it brings about, because I think it does bring a lot of positive things if we're open to it. And some of the best people I know that are older in life have continued to move with the changes. Like I think of Miss Barbara Strange that passed away several years ago. It's like, man, that woman could work a live stream. She could work a cell phone. She could work a computer, probably better than even people my age at times. And she was in her 80s. And it's like, there's a lot of people that just seem to roll with the punches, and they do find a lot more joy, I think, at times in life, because they're able to see the good that can come about, with these transitions.
When we talk about that, like the cocoon effect, when if you cut a butterfly out of a cocoon, it's not going to really be able to fly because it needs that struggle. And so I think sometimes we need those. My brother was in the Air Force for 27 years, I think. And part of them being able, if I understood this correctly, part of them being able to like level up on, kind of their rank or whatever was moving to different places. Like you couldn't really move up in rank without getting different jobs and doing different things and going to different places. And so there's some benefit to that. I think it's just like you understand this process. And I think Travis, there's this kid's book that talks about, how like the fear of things is a whole lot worse than the actual thing itself. So, y'all might find that book somewhere on our website, but,
I believe that's benandtravis.com, by the way. You can find it there. You can find it on Amazon. Amazon's probably the easiest way to get it. But The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Worry Coaster. And to your point, Ben, and I know a couple of years ago, I was not very clear, and you had to come to me and make sure, and I could correct myself, which you've done on many occasions. God is the God of comfort. He will comfort you. But in the midst of the comfort, he will also stretch you. And I think my comment was, God is not the God of comfort zones. He's not going to let you be comfortable. He will, but because it's your choice ultimately. But there is an aspect of him that he's going to challenge and kind of stretch what you think you're capable of. And that's certainly one of those things. And like I said, Ben, you're related to me, and we don't typically do things the easy way anyways. And so we just kind of jump in on things and figure it out as we go, much like The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Worry Coaster. Yeah. Hopefully the Joy Rider, the sequel, will be a lot more smoother just because we've done it once before.
Yeah, and speaking of doing something before, that's another thing when it comes to transitions that are really important is lean on those who have traveled the same road. One of the things that I do a lot of times with these groups that I get together with is I talk about some of the very people who run those groups are people who've been through some of the same things. We've talked about before, the reason I counsel is because I went through struggles and I wanted to help other people through them. The reason we do this podcast is because you went through struggles and combined some of the things that we have been through. We wanted to share and help others through. And so I think that that's kind of a two-sided thing. One, lean on the people who've been through those transitions. Connect yourself with people who have already been through the transition from elementary to high school or middle school and middle school to high school, and those going into college. I think it's great how a lot of colleges have these things like we had, where, you know, you go up a week or two before and you got these upperclassmen that take care of the younger ones and kind of introduce them to things and take them kayaking and take them and playing games with them, and basically saying, hey, we're upperclassmen at college, but we're going to show you the ropes, you know, and you already, the first day of classes, already can recognize somebody in the hallway. You can recognize somebody, you know, at a club event or at a basketball game or whatever. And so I think that's always a huge thing. That's probably a good thing for the church to do, you know, for churches. Yeah, discipleship. And, you know, they walk into the church the first time somebody invites them to go eat. Then from that point on, they've got that connection with someone else. And so those transitions, and then be the person that does that back. So lean on the people as you go through that transition, but then be the person that helps them. If you think about a transition from, you know, walking the cable is what we used to do at Lonnie's old ropes course. And there's a tree here, and there's a tree here, and there's a cable stretched between. And you go, which one, where is your most stable point? Well, the tree, obviously. And so that's where I'm trying to get to. When I'm going through that transition, I'm in a shaky point. And the more that I can stretch from this tree and hold your hand, and somebody can stretch from the other tree and hold your hand and make that a little bit shorter of a transition, at least the scary part a little bit shorter, then we can help each other get through those times. And so I think, you know, leaning on people who have traveled that road or who are in a more stable point. It's not the thing, it's the traveling to that thing that's so difficult.
I think it's interesting you mentioned interface from Freed, or whatever they may call it at UNA or any other school. John David Schwartz was my interface leader at Freed Hardeman, and his younger brother is now the campus minister at Riverside. Of course, he's been in ministry. He doesn't need my help to bring him along as John David did, but that was pretty neat to be able to hand the reins off to him, much like JD had helped me. And of course, most importantly, someone who could speak to the transition better than anyone else at this moment, Jet Mahan is making his first appearance on the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis, trying to get him to maybe go to sleep. But again,
I'm just going to rock whoever's watching this video to sleep with Jet as well. But I mean, it's like I told Lindsay the other day, I was listening as I was getting him, you know, what y'all were saying, to go along with people, you know, that I guess have walked the journey was kind of the thought there. And there's so much joy that I find in being a parent while also then getting help from my parents. You know, it's like there's a greater respect, I think, as I get older for everything mom and dad have done for me growing up, or what they did for me, and then seeing them help me help my kids. And so I think some of that too is when you walk through these transitions with people that have walked it before, I think you gain even more insight about who they are, which builds a greater sense of respect and unity and teamwork. And so there's so many benefits even to just going through, you know, the difficult, you know, moments, because I think it bonds you together with other people. And I think that's always a huge positive. So
there's a sink or swim aspect to that I think that we in 2025 don't appreciate enough. You know, I always picture I think it's John Wayne, the picture where he takes the kid and just chunks him in the water, you know, and maybe that's not a great illustration, but there is an aspect of, you know, the ships have been burned, the Rubicon has been crossed, the shark has been jumped. And there's an aspect of leaning on God. Really, it's not so much, well, I've got to splash around and make this work, although it feels that way, but there is a leaning on God. Like, God is going to make this work. We have confidence that he's going to make it work, and we just want to be open-handed to what he's doing. And so that could be discipleship in itself.
I watched Denise Willingham do that exact thing, you know, 3 weeks ago at swim lessons with, you know, Amy's been going to her for the past 3 years. And of course, Denise has been on the podcast with Run to the Cross. and all that. But there was a lot of times where kid was getting a little anxious day one, and she would go, just hold my hand. But the problem is Denise was in the pool and the kid was outside the pool. And when she said, hold my hand, those kids got yanked real quick, and 3 days later, those kids were swimming across the pool. They figured it out. I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves or just humanity, I think, enough credit sometimes on the resolve that we do have, and what we can actually, accomplish. And of course, I believe all that comes from God, as well. So,
many of the moves I've made, my initial answer was no.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear God laugh if you listen faintly.
Well, I was sharing a picture today of, I think it's called Hanauma Bay in Hawaii. And
Hanauma Bay. I snorkeled it.
Yeah, so me too. And so we went into that. But I remember that. Sorry, Travis, you got left out. We weren't together when we did it, but I remember from all those years ago when I was in high school, which has been many years ago, that there was a map and there's like, you can go in this part, and then once you're like a more certified snorkeler, you could go to like this area, and then like the really good experts could go to the outer rim of it. And then of course there's the ocean, that's out. And so I use that in the presentation today to talk about, when we first get kids, Jet, Emmy, all of our kids, they're kind of at that level of where they're sort of trying to figure out things, and we've got to keep them right there close. We can watch everything, we can do whatever. And then there's like, we transition them and we eventually want them to set sail. We want them to be able to get out and go out into this life. And so I guess the third thing would be sort of, take a step at a time. It's not, obviously there's time to go, hey, I'm going to challenge myself and jump out there. But there's also room to say, look, this transition's tough. I'm just going to take one day at a time. Because all of life is kind of building on the experiences. And so we want our kids to be able to set sail, but we also don't want to, right off the bat, we can't let them do that. They've got to learn, and they got to grow, and they got to transition to those places. And if we don't ever take them off the leash that's right next to us, they're never going to grow either. So we have to allow them to venture out a little bit and then bring them back in, venture out a little bit, bring them back in. So there's those steps that I think we have to take when we're taking on a new work or doing a new thing. Because I'm sure there's still some nerves with what you're taking on at Westgate, Travis, because you've coached, you've been preaching for a while, but a lot of your work has been coaching and teaching, and then you've preached as well. And this is full time, no other things going on other than preaching full time, right?
Trying to wrestle the elite Ben Hayes status, trying to get to that top rung of Ben Hayes awesomeness. But no, you're absolutely correct. And that's the thing, like the preaching to me, in some ways, that comes easy. I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm bragging, but there's the people aspect, the person aspect, and to put yourself on the back burner and serve those people. There are people who have different bandwidths, and it depends on what day it is, what your bandwidth may be, and what you can deal with. But yeah, I'm excited to hopefully, and this is in any aspect of life, from the successes to the absolute failures, reflect the mercy and grace of God. And so that's been really neat. Yesterday was great. It was a great day. It was a tiring day, but it was awesome. It was good to finally be here, to be where your feet are. As I've said many times, it seems like I had 1 foot here, 1 foot there. And so just ready to see what it brings, and bring some Ben and Travis fun to South Alabama, and not only South Alabama, but Southeast. And I'm talking Southeast Alabama. So we are approaching football. There's going to be football on every week from now to February. I think that's accurate. Yep. And as we approach, what are you guys? We're Alabama fans. It doesn't have to be Alabama, but like, is there a game out there that you're just like, Can't wait. That might be our fun question for the day. I'm not looking forward to Alabama's trip to Athens. I'll say that. Those guys are going to be ready. Of course, I've said that a couple of times over the last few years, and it's turned out okay. But I'll say Florida State. I'm closer to Florida State than I am the University of Alabama as I sit right here. That's how close I am to Florida.
At least you're not close to Knoxville anymore.
Yes, that helps.
Well, for me, I don't know. There's just something about, and of course, y'all know I didn't grow up at a school that had a football team. They have a football team now, so I love getting to go watch Mars Hill play. I grew up watching you play. Central was my high school football team that I loved to watch.
Maybe.
But that first high school football game is just always something about it. I mean, even though it's not cool yet. Now, there's 2 times I look forward to that first game and that just kind of build up of that first game just as a fan. Even on Saturday, the first morning of game day or whatever, where we know, hey, it's all football all day. Those 2 feelings. And then I love that first really good, crisp Friday night where that, you feel the fall and you're just like, we're here. That's always.
I think I'll get that crisp Friday night in like late October.
Yeah, it takes a while, but it feels good once it gets here. Will?
I think LSU Clemson, that's season opener, is going to be a really intriguing one. Yeah. Of course, I'm a homer, so I mean, every time Bama rolls up, I think we're winning by 90. So
I need you in my life, Will.
Yeah, I'm the optimism to the both of y'all's pessimistic attitudes when football season happens. I'm doing a walk for water in Austin, Texas. And so I was looking going, I'm in Austin. I need to catch, a Longhorn game. And it's Georgia, Texas.
Ooh.
But the problem is, as Travis knows, they're playing in Georgia, so I'm flying to Austin and they're flying, to Georgia. So, but I think that's going to be another big one. Their Sark and Kirby kind of, are becoming a top tier, coaching battle, I think. So, but I'm kind of like you. I love going to the high school games. We've got a few kids in the youth group that are starting to get, up there to where they'll probably see more playing time. And so it's always fun to go watch. It's interesting to me because Mars Hill, their region is not the toughest, and so there's a lot of blowouts. But it's fun to watch Muscle Shoals play some 6A schools in Alabama. But all of our guys, we have not had any skill guys. So they're all linemen that have come through the youth group. And so it's been really fun to kind of watch the interior battles because I'm trying to see how they're playing. And normally you go to Mars Hill and you're watching misdirections and tons of just scoring, and then over here it's like it's just we're gonna watch the trenches all night, so it's kind of cool. So I'm ready for it to be here, excited, but I'm taking Alabama 90-0 every week.
Yeah, baby. 90,000 degree weather too. That opener in Tallahassee is going to be a heater.
Travis better have my couch ready because I may be trying to make it to Tallahassee, and his house is where I'm going to be sleeping.
Let's go. I can't call it the Bat Cave anymore because it's upstairs above the garage. So I don't know. We need to come up with a new name. But anyways, that question brought to you by the Good Old Fashioned Dislike Podcast. You boys better get your SEC previews ready. I think we'll be doing that sometime around the dodgeball tournament. So double whammy there. Appreciate you guys hopping on with me. Appreciate everybody putting up with the background back here because nobody wants to look at every box that we have in this house. So appreciate you guys, and we'll talk at you again later.
We'll see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.